Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're moving into some more StarCraft action. My name is Fear Dragon. I'm joined here by Rotterdam, and we got a Protoss versus Protoss, so two Protoss at the desk. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fine, first of all. I've been watching a lot of StarCraft. I think like these days I kind of just take it more as like a nerd rather than somebody who's actually working here. I'm just running around and trying to catch a little bit of every single series that's going on and ask everybody how the games go. But yeah, this is actually a pretty big series very early on. I mean, we've already seen a couple of big names drop. I mean, Stefano is already eliminated of the tournament.
Yeah.
I saw that Ziggy is already out as well. I mean, Ziggy obviously made famous by Artosis once upon a time, but Ziggy is one of those good players that's been around, and he is capable of having a good run. And now we're about to lose one more. SKillous, maybe not a name yet that really like speaks to everybody. But if you guys watch WCS Spring, you remember this kid having like an amazing run through the knockout bracket, winning like 5 pretty tough series in a row. In the end, making top 24. Harstem, of course, was top 16 in spring, so this is a pretty big match very early on into the tournament.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. Now, I think you've already kind of hyped up a lot about what's so awesome about SKillous, but I do think that there is a bit of history between these guys. Now, granted, SKillous I think has come up more recently, so some of that history is going to be less important, but Harstem is 6-0 versus SKillous. He's never really lost a series to him. He's maybe dropped like 1 or 2 maps, I think a couple of times, but that's it. So this is still an uphill battle historically for SKillous, but Harstem doesn't seem to be in normal Harstem awesome form today.
Well, that's weird actually, because if you would have asked me this morning, I would have said I think Harstem is really good right now. Like, he's been playing very well lately. He recently qualified for the offline finals of the Clash Starcraft 2 Invitational as well, another tournament that we've been running. So, and he did it in a very convincing way. Like, he took out a couple of very strong players. So I actually thought that Harstem has been looking really good. It's just that he dropped 2 series in the second group stage. Anyway, we'll talk about it more, guys. Let's go ahead and introduce these lovely nerds. In the right bottom side, the awesome, young Russian Protoss. It is SKillous.
And up at the top left, we have the red Protoss player from Team Asterion. He is Harstem.
But yeah, it's weird. Like, obviously seeing Harstem go 0-2-0-4 in the second group stage, I'm with you, Ravi. It's like, whoa, that's kind of shocking. Then again, if you see who he lost to, was it like a Namcho?
It was
Nurchio?
Nurchio and Zanster.
Okay, well,
yeah,
Namcho, Zanster. 2 Swedish Zergs did very well in that group. I mean, yeah, that's a tough loss for Harstem, but for instance, like last week, he was also down 0-2 against Nurchio. Then he turned it around, still won 3-2. Like, I don't think we should make it seem like, oh, Harstem's been playing terrible because he lost 2 best-of-3s. Now, obviously, if he loses this one as well, we'd be like, whoa, something is clearly very wrong, because for Harstem to lose 3 series in a row that early on, but this is not going to be an easy one, man. And you know, there is one thing that speaks for SKillous. He's got experience in the knockout bracket. Harstem does not.
That's absolutely true. Now, Roddy, tell me a little bit about Protoss versus Protoss these days. We see a cheeky probe down over here on the bottom center side of the map. It's not really in a proxy location in the sense that he's not really close to Harstem's base. So what are you expecting here?
I'm expecting him not to do anything with it. It's probably just one of those pylons where a Harstem probe is entering the main base now, and he's going to be like, oh my goodness, one pylon is missing. So obviously Harstem is going to scout around a little bit, but there's a good chance that SKillous will just wait with dropping his stack until he gets his first gateway units out and he gets rid of this probe. So it's mostly just to confuse your opponent. This is something that the Koreans were doing at first, and slowly but steady, a lot of the Europeans seem to have like kind of you know, adapt to this style and be like, you know what, it is kind of nice to confuse your opponent over and over again. PvP is just in a weird place, Ravi. That's just the way it is. We see a lot of proxies. You know, people still love the 3-gate robo aggressions. Some Protosses really love proxy robos. Some of them love proxy stargates. And some of them, and I think Harstem in particular, like kind of defensive play and just rely on like maybe getting a quicker forge, a quick expand. We'll see how it goes. I mean, everybody's got their own take on it. Some players just love the aggression. The other ones, they focus on defense.
Yeah, PvP has been a bit of a nutty matchup like you were saying lately, but one of the interesting other developments that we've sort of seen in the past couple of months, I feel like, is that we see occasionally more Colossus and stuff getting mixed in and everything. So if Harstem is able to get off that sort of more safer defensive play, we'll see if he can get to that stage, as both these players are going to go for their expansions for now, and we'll wait to see what is that first line of tech they're going to be going for after all these sentries come up. And is that 3 sentries there for SKillous? Yeah, 3rd sentry on the way.
Harstem actually really likes heavy sentry openings as well. There is a robotics facility on the way for Harstem. I'm kind of expecting the same here from SKillous. It doesn't really make any sense to go for a Stargate this late and a Twilight console. It's just super risky, guys. Like, a lot of people will be like, whatever happened to the Blink Stalkers? They're awesome. Whoa, I don't know what this is. I mean, Blink Stalkers are awesome. The problem is that people became so damn good against Blink Stalker openings that they'll push you with a couple of sentries and an Immortal and a Prism, and then one Immortal and the Warp Prism. It's just almost invincible. So that's why Stalker openings fell a little bit out of fashion, and people love getting the Robo units out instead. I love your ambition, though, when you're like, you know, we could see some of those Colossus. I'm like, whoa. Like, I'm always worried about, like, every minute of the game going by. It's
That's
like,
true.
okay,
PvP does not lend to just say, like, I'm going to go for this build, and that means that we're going to go to the 10-minute mark. Absolutely. Now, we did have that fast +1 weapons getting started up there for SKillous. This is another one of those developments that happened in PvP, I think maybe like a month or a half to 2 months ago. Wow. A lot of pros players going for these really fast forges.
Yeah, I don't mind the fast forge. I do find I find like the Twilight follow-up pretty crazy. I don't think that you would go Blink here, right? Because Blink would just be so incredibly late. So is he just doing this to go straight into like maybe an Archon Zello timing? Could that be an option here?
Okay, well, we see the probes are going to be building that shield batteries. He saw the Adepts on the minimap using that Tobii eye tracker. We can see in Harstem's vision what is going on. You'll see that over here he moves forward. He looks really, really quickly with that Hallucinating Phoenix. Scouts everything out.
He's way too fast. I watch his stream as well. I'm like, geez, Louise, Harstem, slow down. There's an old man watching your stream over here, okay?
It is ridiculous, the amount of screen changes that a lot of these pro players have.
Yep. Taking a look at the screen of SKillous as well. I'm really curious about his strategy, by the way. That must be just a couple of additional gateways. Because this is so crazy. He's playing without a robo. There is no detection. Now, of course, SKillous did have 3 sentries, like you pointed out as well. So he's getting a lot of information. He's getting some information from these Adepts. I have no idea, by the way, how these Adepts didn't go down, but for some reason they're still alive. I mean, yeah, that kind of stuff is nice. Still, who plays without a robo 5-6 minutes into the game? Like, imagine if the random DTs would have been built. You said that.
Okay, well, we have 6 more gateways being added on alongside that third base, but Charge also being added on. SKillous is just on 41 workers, and with the Templar Archives also being put down, SKillous is going to have a very, very scary mid-game army. And like you were saying, no real detection or anything, but he is just trying to keep an eye on his opponent. Yeah. I wonder how scary this push is going to look to Harstem.
Yeah, I mean, or maybe Harstem is going to attack SKillous, because SKillous is actually the one going up to 3 bases a little bit faster. I mean, I gotta say, I think SKillous' build is a bit crazy, but it's crazy enough that I do really like it, actually, because we can't even say that this is super weird or greedy, because he's been scouting non-stop. Like, yeah, his robo is late, and there is going to be a game where maybe he misses a Dark Shrine in the corner of the map, but you can't say that he hasn't tried. He's not really gambling. I think he's doing whatever he can to stay on top of what Harstem is doing on the other side of the map. But that much quicker forge, I mean, that's going to help out eventually a little bit. And getting all those gateways out earlier, getting the quicker Archons. I mean, the only thing that SKillous is going to be down at is the Immortal count. But how bad is that really? You know, how good are Immortals? I mean, some scenarios, absolutely phenomenal. Some Protoss versus Protoss fights, they're actually not that sick, right?
Especially when it gets to the later stage of the game, you have so many charge lots added into the mix, which, by the way, Charge finished up there for SKillous, and a lot of those gateways have finished up as well. So he's going to be able to warp in a ton of charge lots very, very soon. Now, Warp Prism having a hard time for Harstem getting into the main base, and it looks like SKillous has actually got that pylon even down on the south side to sort of ambush it if he sticks around for too long.
Can we take a look at how many Stalkers both players have? Because those are basically going to be the worst units. Yeah, 5 to 3. So it's very low, obviously, but 5 Stalkers, that is still 10 army supply. If you look at the Zealot count right now, 9 Zealots with charge on the side of SKillous. It's really funny what I think about Immortals, because I love Immortals, guys, don't get me wrong, and I think every Protoss player loves Immortals, but I think it's like, especially that mid phase where the Immortal doesn't necessarily shine. I think like, if both players go to like 170, 180 supply, Immortals become a very strong backbone again, because then I think too many Archons, it becomes very counterproductive, because Archons have T-Rex arms and they start blocking each other, and Immortals have slightly bigger range. So then Immortals are nice, but it's only when you're working with these like medium-sized armies, like 65, 70 army supply. I kind of like Archon Zealot a lot more than I like a heavy Immortal composition.
I was wondering if SKillous is going to be moving out around this time, because +2 weapons is finishing up, and like you were saying, his army is well suited for this kind of mid-game engagement. So there is the move out, but that +2 weapons is closing the distance there for Harstem as well. There is a window here for SKillous, but that window is closing. He's got to make his move now.
What's running into the natural of Harstem? Can we take a look at that? What is that? Is that
a single Zealot?
But I like it though,
because
it's
so much
distracting. It's distracting. It's like these tiny little things. SKillous is opening up the high ground for himself here. That shield battery, I think it's going to go down quite quickly. I would love to see him go for it. That is 4 Archons though. That's 4 Archons on the side of Harstem.
And here we end up seeing the Tobii Eye Tracker that SKillous is doing his best to try and micro this. He's losing a lot of his own Zealots, but his Archons are staying alive, taking out a ton of Harstems, and we see a big round of Zealot reinforcements coming forward, going after some of those Archons. It looks like he is able to start pushing Harstem further and further back. The shield batteries continuing to try and heal up some of these Archons, but they are just outnumbered. GG. SKillous is going to take the first game against Harstem.
Yeah, with a very cool build and just an excellent timing, right? That was that ideal phase in the game for the young Russian where his army truly shined compared to Harstem's army. Harstem had a few more Stalkers, and like it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's 10 army supply. He was a little bit out of position there as well. And on top of that, like SKillous actually had a lot of money in the bank, by the way. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Because we were following his eye tracker, but he had 1,600 minerals. And then, of course, he warped in a whole bunch of units. Probably he built some probes. So it actually went down to like 400 or 500. But I'm like, oh my goodness. And he's fighting near 2 shield batteries, but he still got the job done because he found a very sweet spot where Immortals do not really shine, the Stalkers are useless, and Zealots and Archons are phenomenal.
Yeah, really, really well done there by SKillous, taking advantage, especially that +2 weapons upgrade. For those who don't know, in PvP, it is one of the most game-changing upgrades there in terms of PvP warfare. +2 weapons means that your Zealots are killing units a lot faster, your Archons are killing your opponent's units a lot faster. It's a big damage break point for a ton of unit interactions for Protoss.
You know what I find most shocking is like in the beginning of that fight, it was 4 Archons for Harstem. And 3 Archons for SKillous, and there was another Archon which is kind of lost on the right side of the screen, right? But it's technically not an ideal engagement. Then on top of that, he had 1,500 minerals in the bank that only came into play a little bit later in that fight, and he still got the job done. That makes me look at his build. I'm like, okay, maybe your build is a bit crazy because your detection is super late. Maybe it's a bit greedy, but geez Louise, did that look powerful? Because I don't think Harstem played a poor game. It's just that SKillous' build was better than Harstem's build.
Yeah, I didn't really see too many of the reinforcements also coming in for Harstem during the fight, whereas SKillous, of course, we saw that massive Zealot warp in. So I'm wondering also how much of that was also having a bit of an impact.
Yeah, I don't know, because normally, like, shield batteries are absolutely phenomenal in Archon Zealot fights. Like, because Archons are obviously super tanky, and there is nothing that really has great burst damage there for SKillous. Like, it's a great A-move army. Sorry, Protoss bros, but that's just the way it is. It's a great A-move army. It's not a great focus fire army, so shield batteries are normally phenomenal in those fights, and he still got the job done, which is quite impressive. We'll see if our Russian Protoss get another special build for us here in Game 2. Of course, it's not always the units that they use, it's often the way they get there, which makes this game truly unique. On the left top side, the young Russian, it is SKillous.
And his opponent down 0-1 at the bottom right-hand corner of the map, the red Protoss player. He goes by the name of Harstem.
Sorry to interrupt you there. I'm like, oh no, like it's the small things, right? Like you want to build a gate and he pulled his probe back too soon. Like this is not a big deal. I know that this doesn't determine the outcome of the game, but a later gate means a laser cybercore, and this really goes into your head as well as a player, guys. Like Harstem is a very uplifting, happy dude, but the moment you're down 0-1, your tournament life is on the line, and you're probably even quite confused about what just happened in game 1, because you probably look at the game and it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why did I just lose like that? And then you want to build your gateway, your very first action in the second game. You pull your probe out too soon. It's 3 or 4 seconds, but in your mind, you're like, oh my god, I'm playing so bad right now.
Yeah, and I'm sure that he's also still not feeling good because the knockout bracket is that elimination match you're talking about. That means that he also lost. He bottomed out in group stage 2, like we were saying before, by losing both of his matches. So it's already not been a great day for Harstem, and even if he manages to survive through this, he's got a lot of other matches in the knockout bracket. So it's not an easy mental place for Harstem, but he's going to be starting this game with a proxy pylon on the other side of the map.
Yep, he is going to build one of his pylons, but he's also continuing to scout. You know what I really think it's funny? Like, obviously, this is not rocket science, and you can't pinpoint it to 100%, but I find, like, the timings of probes showing up in the main base so telling. There is, like, clearly there's the direct scout, then there is often I build a pylon in a random place, but I didn't actually wait for a proxy. And then sometimes you're like 2 adapts or your 2 stalkers are like 70% done, and then the probe shows up, and I'm like, yeah, I wonder what it's been doing, you know. And then you run towards the corner of the map and like, well, it's a target, surprise, surprise. It's actually very, very telling when the probe shows up. Now, of course, a really high-level player can maybe take advantage of it. It's like, I know that you know that this could mean something, so you can throw your opponent for a loop.
Yeah, Roddy, maybe he just built his gateway a little bit later than expected.
Exactly. But more often than not, you can actually tell a lot by the time your or the enemy probe shows up in your main base.
Ooh, and there it is. SKillous getting the scout out on that proxy pylon, and That is going to be slightly annoying for Harstem because the Stalker's already out on the map, and if you look, Harstem is not really bothered to move out any of his gateway units, so that means that that pylon is going to be taking some chip damage. That means that Harstem doesn't have to, or isn't going to have the opportunity to, say, defend a high ground, and he went for a Stalker's Sentry opening, so there's no way he can contest this.
I think there could be a proxy pylon and a proxy gateway for SKillous as well. I can see, well, SKillous is actually expanding, but I'm still thinking that he's going to maybe eventually do something with this. Because I wouldn't mind to see him go for some like Oracle Gateway aggression. I think that could actually get a lot of damage done, especially after sniping the pylon of your opponent early on.
All right, we see that SKillous is looking around. I think he caught a glimpse maybe of that Hallucinating Phoenix making its way forward into his own main base. And he is going to have his Stargate scouted very, very soon. And there he sees the Phoenix coming out, but can probably assume it's a hallucination based on all the sentries he saw earlier.
Yep, there is a shield battery there. That's not a fight that SKillous can really take. SKillous should actually be very careful because force fields could be dangerous. He knew that as well. So he got out of there. Harstem is building a shield battery in the main base. So I think he's gonna. Oh no! What? Why did you cancel that? You're nuts. He knows he's playing against Oracle as well. Oh my goodness! I mean, yeah, every penny counts, but I find that a crazy cancel, Ravi.
And just 2 Stalkers in the main base. I mean, that is sort of the bare minimum to deal with an Oracle, but you still lose workers if they just decide to suicide in.
I find that nuts. I can't believe he canceled that. I mean, like, obviously you could say it's a very high-level decision, but let's see how that plays out. There is an Oracle that's going to show up. That's 2 probes already going down. Now it's just going to kind of run around the Rosie here. It's going to use this Nexus to its own advantage, getting 2 more probes. Okay, not too bad for Harstem so far, but that's still 4 workers immediately, though.
And the Oracle survives, so it's going to have an opportunity to dart back in later on. A second Oracle is out, so now even if a shield battery was made, those Oracles can tag team together and just bypass the shield battery healing. We have Resonating Glaives on the way as a follow-up over here from SKillous, as well as a slower forward. So his +1 weapons is going to be later than Harstem's this game. We're going to see Harstem coming back in for another one of the scouts. I think he did see the Twilight Council researching.
Yep, and now he scouts that pylon as well. So I think Harstem is getting some very good information here, especially because he's keeping track of these Oracles as well. Revelation is going to keep track of these gateway units. How do you like the decision? Like, I'm obsessed with him canceling a shield battery there because I see why he did it. Do you like it? Do you approve?
I mean, I'm not as huge a fan, but I mean, I guess at the top level, like you were saying, it's a high-level decision. Yeah. It's just all the small little things can start to add up, especially in these kind of PvP situations.
But the funny thing is, like, you also lose 25 minerals by canceling it anyway.
Yeah,
right? So
that's true.
This is literally
half a probe.
Yeah, it's 75 mineral decision, but I think it's kind of ballsy. But so far, Harstem is getting away with it. But guys, SKillous is clearly gearing up for a big attack with a lot of adepts. I hope for Harstem. I mean, I actually find these adept attacks really difficult to defend. I think multiple shield batteries is very important, and I think Stalkers in general are very good against adepts, because obviously adepts don't do bonus damage against Stalkers.
Hallucinating Phoenix, I think, just scouted out all of the units moving across the map over here. The Stalkers took it out.
That's a cannon. I mean, I like the cannon as well, but I would like to see another battery or 2. I mean, Resonating Glaives is done already. He might actually just dive on top of these sentries here. No, he does not, because I think SKillous wants to gear it up with the Oracle. He's swapping in 4 more adepts, Ravi. He's looking for an opening, though.
Okay, the Oracle's heading over to the main base. There's only a couple of Stalkers now slowly making their way over, but the Stalkers and the Adepts don't really shade forward, so they're getting force-fielded out, and it seems like Harstem is not going to have any trouble defending the first wave.
Yep, the first wave not. The second wave, let's see. That's 2 sentries going down almost immediately. The Stalker gets picked up with the wall. Why don't you shade into the main base? Is it open? Can he get in? No, he can't. But he might let it finish up and actually try to kill that Cyber Core.
Yeah, the probe is also there, so it would have been an extra shot on that as well. The Oracle's going to be coming around, but they don't actually have that much energy left over, and one of the Oracles gets taken out immediately.
Yeah, things, even though Harstem is still down in supply, guys, this does look pretty promising because he's got the 2 batteries, he's got the cannon, but that is a lot of adepts. Eventually, these adepts are going to run out of steam. That is so many adepts, though. The sentries disappear immediately.
Oh, the shield battery's healing up that photon cannon. Like 8 of these adepts are just killing the photon cannon instead of the rest of the army. So as Immortal is starting to continue to do damage, but it's starting to fall. It's losing a lot of its hit points. Is Harstem going to be able to get out enough of these units? If he can just hold on a little bit longer, he's up in workers. He can make some sort of a comeback. He's got more units rallying on forward, but more adepts also shading forward here for SKillous.
Oh, he should kill those High Templars. SKillous, he could have killed High Templars. Now he's never going to be able to take out that Archon. I think that was a big mistake there. If he snipes those HDs, then there is a little bit of potential for him to snowball, get more adepts in there. But this Archon is literally never going to go down against just adepts.
Yeah, the adepts are going to have to just try and play Ring Around the Rosie at this point, and SKillous, he's not transitioning, he's not making any other units. He's warping in 7 more Adepts, Kev. I think that he is committed to this, and I don't know how he's going to make this work unless Harstem just said, okay, well, time to move out, but why would he ever do that?
I mean, Harstem is actually getting a Warp Prism now, but I don't even hate that much, because Archons are so tanky, and in case your Archon is in danger of dying against all these Adepts, he can juggle it to the back, he can juggle it back to his shield battery. Harstem actually running into all these Adepts. These Adepts are going to shade on top of all of this one more time, but it's 2 batteries and a cannon.
Oh god, that Archon is already back up to 75% of its hit points with the shield batteries, healing it back up. And finally, some of the Zealots have been taken out, but those Archons remain strong. And there is that Warp Prism coming in. +2 weapons on the way. I don't know if this game is going to last long enough to even see that, but these Archons, oh god, you can see every single one of these attacks from those Archons do so much damage to these Adepts. And here's a Warp Prism Micro also being added in. But the unit count for Harstem is really starting to run low.
Yeah, I mean, Harstem still has to be careful. I think that the cannon there is so freaking nice, right? Because it takes a very long time for Adept to kill a cannon. But it's actually amazing how long SKillous is able to stick around. Is that a full HP Archon? It is, right?
Yeah,
yes,
that has a lot of hit points still left over. And we end up seeing all of those Adepts just shading on forward. These 2 Archons are sitting very low on hit points, but 6 workers going down. The worker count has been evened up. SKillous, I've got to hand it to him. He is making this a closer game than I thought it would be.
He's just not stopping. He's warping in 7 more Adepts there, and he's going to try to get a few more pros. We still have that cannon. These Archons are so low on HP. Harstem, do you have like another shield battery somewhere? Because now extra Adepts are about to show up. Okay, he does have 1 more high HP Archon there, and that's kind of his saving grace. I think Harstem is fine, don't get me wrong, guys, but geez Louise, his skill is making him work for it.
Okay, the full wall off. There's no way those Adepts are going to go anywhere anymore. A couple more of those shield batteries in the back behind the mineral line. As soon as he sees it, he taps out, and Harstem takes the 2nd game.
Whew. I mean, Harstem had some really, really good scouting there, I think. Like, I think he was always on top of these oracles. I think the real power of maybe SKillous' build there as well is that the oracles force a couple of stalkers to stay in the main base, and then the oracles show up in the natural. But the oracles never really had an impact in the natural, right? The first one died before the fighting started, and the second one eventually flew in and created some beautiful green fireworks, but that's about it. Like, it got picked up very quickly as well, and then still, it was kind of close. And I really think if he would have sniped those 2 High Templars that were warped in right next to his Adepts, I mean, that's a very easy kill for Adepts, guys. They do bonus damage on those units. They disappear very quickly. That's -1 Archon. We saw how close it was in the end. Imagine without a full HP Archon, there is maybe a chance that SKillous would have been able to get the job done.
Exactly, and it's not even just the fact that in the long term that 1 Archon got a lot of value. It's the fact that in that exact moment, that forced SKillous to retreat. If that 1 Archon wasn't there, SKillous doesn't necessarily have to retreat. He continues to rally forward, and maybe he's able to continue taking some better engagements. Maybe he's able to start taking out the photon cannon or something else.
And you keep draining those batteries, right? The longer the fighting is going on, the more those batteries are being drained, because every single shot, it doesn't really matter what your Adepts are shooting at, whether it's a Stalker, a Sentry, a Zealot, or a Probe. Those batteries will be drained. Now, indeed, he had to retreat because that Archon was just a little too much to tackle there. Fun game, fun series so far. Pretty wild.
Very micro-intensive game number 2. Actually, I also really, really enjoy just the decision in that kind of moment to say, let's go for the Warp Prism defensively. This is all just about keeping those Archons alive if they ever get low and retreating them back to the shield batteries. And that definitely ended up panning out well.
Also, kudos to Harstem for renewing the wall, right, on top of his ramp over and over again. It's one of those things.
I'm done with this, just full wall.
It's like one of these things we take for granted, and we expect these guys to do that, but we often still see a lot of top-level players mess it up as well. And then suddenly 7 Adepts do shade into the main base. We know there's nothing there. Then probes start bouncing around back and forth, and that's where things get really bad as well. So just incredibly good defensive play out of the Dutch Protoss.
All right, well, we're moving into game number 3, tied up series 1-1. And down here in the bottom right, we have our blue Protoss player. He is SKillous.
Made round of 24 WCS Spring. That was an excellent result for the young Russian. He wants to do better this time. But to do that, he has to take care of this man who made top 16 at WCS Spring. Spawning on the left top side. He's been in great shape in online tournaments lately. But now he wants to show that he can do it offline as well. It is Harstem.
Now, we've been seeing a lot of these kind of individual proxy pylons, but funny enough, none of the proxy pylons have really turned to anything. It is sort of just part of that good old PvP meta these days, right, where the proxies are so common, even just faking a proxy is good. But, of course, that last game, it's easy to forget with how crazy it got, but that started off with Harstem trying to go for some sort of proxy in the center of the map and just getting caught immediately.
Yeah, or at least he had the pylon there,
Yeah.
right? But it's so nice to have a pylon out on the map because there's a lot of builds where your opponent will get very aggressive. And then at one point when you feel like, okay, I have enough defensively, you warp into 2 adepts. And we all know that 2 adepts can actually end games in PvP. If they shade into a main base and you just warped in on the other side of the map and you have to deal with 2 adepts in your main, you're like, oh my god. Now this time, Harstem might actually be going for a Stargate here.
Both of these players leaving their probe there for a little bit, but SKillous is going to be the first player to pull his probe back.
So I like what Harstem is doing here, right? Because he's sending another probe to the main base, so the timing is not going to be like super duper obvious. I still think it's a little bit later than a lot of other scouts. It's like, alright, here's my probe. You have nothing to worry about because obviously if your Cybercore is finishing up, you know your opponent's Cybercore is finishing up. I assume this is a Stargate, by the way. Oh,
Twilight Council.
Dark Shrine opening maybe?
Yeah, you know, I mean, even if it was a Stargate, it's a little bit closer, but not actually that much closer, I guess.
Yeah,
but
I think it's the Dark Shrine opening.
I would like a Dark Shrine, but really quickly, worth noting that SKillous was scouting around for some proxy pylon locations as he built his proxy pylon and then just sort of scouted down along the bottom side as our wonderful observer Indy was showing us. But Twilight Council's finishing up. We're going to find out, Kev.
I mean, if we go back to the way that SKillous has played so far in this first series, game number 1, super late robo, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we praised him for it, but it was still a bit crazy. There is our Dark Shrine, by the way, guys, on the left bottom side of the map. It's one of those builds where, like, yeah, it works if you indeed keep very close. Oh my god, this time he's getting a much quicker robo. Well, so much for all that tier recrafting, guys. SKillous had a build in game 1. Maybe Harstem thought that if he would do the same thing again, this is the way to punish it.
Look at that minimap awareness from Harstem, just watching that minimap like a hawk.
Yeah, you kind of have to, right? In this phase in the game, there are so many little things you could potentially spot. An adapt, a flying unit, a probe, a pylon. You just need to really keep a close eye on that minimap.
He's using his own adepts defensively. He scouts around, sees that nexus, and is trying to find his opponent's adepts if he can catch them.
This is a late nexus, by the way, for Harstem. Like a 330 nexus, that gives me the idea that something weird is up. Like, I'm pretty sure that SKillous knows Harstem very well. Harstem is a player that normally likes to sentry expand. The moment he's not doing that, it's often something funky. Now, what's going to be the first unit there? Is that an Immortal? No, that's an Immortal, I think. He spent a lot of money, so I think that's an Immortal.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Oh my god, that pylon is so close, by the way. That pylon of Harstem is so close.
Okay, not only that, but it looks like SKillous is also going to be losing one of his pylons. He's not really replenishing it. He's not going to get supply block right now, but the DTs are getting warped in.
I don't like that probe, though. That probe is pretty telling to me. If I'm that probe, I immediately spend another chrono boost on my observer. Oh my god, he just chrono boosted the Nexus. It seems like SKillous is not really aware of what's happening yet,
He's not adding on another observer. He's not starting up anything.
He could force field here.
He force fields the adepts instead, and that means that the DTs just run straight into the main base. And now if they right-click down that robo, he will be able to kill it before an observer can come out, but he's just going to go after the probes.
I mean, this is going to be insane damage because a second Immortal was queued up as well. I thought SKillous may have been able to put the pieces together, but he was not. You were spot on, by the way. I think if he goes straight for the robo, he wins the game. But that's not something that Harstem can necessarily know. So I like what Harstem is doing here. He's settling for the guaranteed damage, and he just put himself in an amazing position. He doesn't even lose the DTs, Ravi.
Yeah, funny enough, it is we evened up worker counts, but those DTs now, since both of them survive, they can turn into an Archon. We already saw how effective those Archons can be in that mid game when you start getting up charge and everything. And speaking of charge, Harstem's got a Twilight Council. He starts up his charge upgrade.
In a way, it's not even that bad for SKillous though, right? Because his expand was so much faster. Like, yeah, he lost quite a bit of mining time, but if you look at all the numbers here, it's pretty even across the board. And then obviously take into consideration that he'll most likely find that pylon in his own third base. It's still very playable. Like, that could have been really bad. Instead, it was kind of bad, but because he was a lot greedier, it's kind of acceptable as well.
So these two adepts are going to make their way forward, and they're going to run into a handful of these zealots over here. But there's also a single DT in the mix. The shade does get blocked. There is a full wall over at the top of that ramp. Harstem doing a good job with that. And we see that Warp Prism making its way around, looking for an opportunity to drop in yet another DT. Where is that observer? I don't see it in the main base.
Oh, that's actually a very nice play by Harstem. This one is truly going to hurt. There is an observer in the natural. He could have always warped in like one more DT somewhere, but this is some very good damage. The Adepts are dealing some decent damage apparently as well on the other side of the map, but the Adepts did get cleaned up, while that Prism and the Dark Templar are still alive. So very well done here by Harstem.
Yep, just keeps that DT alive. He was looking for a kill on one more of those probes, but I also want to note that he did snipe off the probe that was sitting at the front gate there for SKillous. So now if he doesn't replenish that, a couple of Adepts that get warped in from that very, very close proxy island could do something. I
think SKillous is going to warp in 2 Adepts as well on the other side of the map. This is so annoying though for SKillous because he's low on observers, and the thing is he has nothing that shoots up here, so he can't do anything against his warp prism. I mean, let's see if his Warp Prism on the other side of the map can maybe get something done. But yeah, things suddenly got very, very painful for SKillous there because he just had no anti-air. He couldn't do anything. And this one Dark Templar and this one Warp Prism is really turning this game upside down in favor of Harstem.
Yeah, the first 7 probes that he killed with those DTs, good damage, but they kind of needed to get that damage done to make it okay. These extra perkers, this is putting Harstem really, really far ahead. And now he's going to be making a couple of these Archons. St. Phoenix is going to see that push is coming, and he's going to see those Immortals. Is he prepared?
Well, I don't think he's very prepared. He's been trying to rebuild all the probes that he's lost, but there is no Twilight Concert yet for SKillous. I mean, he does have a full wall, which is cool and on. He's got a couple of range units. He does still have that Warp Prism on the other side of the map, so SKillous is thinking of a backup plan. But the problem is he can't keep the Zealots out because there are Archons in the mix here as well. I mean, I think that Harstem's army is just too powerful, but let's see if the Russian can create some magical defense here.
Shield battery's helping out a little bit, but these Immortals getting force fielded off, and now we end up seeing that Harstem is going to be able to easily clean up that army. Yes, a lot of work is going down the outside of the map, but it doesn't matter if the army dies. GG, Harstem retains his winning victory scores versus SKillous. His winning streak is going to be able to advance on the next round of the knockout bracket.
Yeah, I think much more importantly, Harstem keeps his tournament dreams alive, and he's been playing very well lately online, so it would have been super disappointing to get eliminated this early. This is a very disappointing loss, of course, for the young SKillous, who, I mean, he wrote on Twitter, he was super motivated for this event, he was super ready for it, because of course spring went fantastic for the young one, making it into that final top 24 bracket. Unfortunately for him, it will end a lot sooner, but I mean, he lost against a very strong opponent.
Absolutely, and Harstem, I think, definitely looking a lot stronger toward the end of that series, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to do in the rest of the knockout bracket, as of course, going to have a lot of matches coming up for just the rest of the day. It's not even like, oh, you know, have a lot of matches coming up for the rest of the tournament. It's just today is a very long, grueling day for him.
Yeah, I really love the follow-up there. I love the way that Harstem did it at first with the DTs. He settled for the guaranteed damage. He didn't go for the Hail Mary play because he knew he didn't have to. Then he recalled one Dark Templar home. He walked the other one home. And then that one DT and the Prism. I mean, there was simply absolutely nothing that SKillous could do about that Prism. And that was a very fun series. And I'm curious to see what Harstem has to say about it as he's on stage with Sue.
Thank you very much, Rotterdam. Congratulations, Harstem. Rotterdam says that was a very exciting series, but not only was it an exciting series, you also, most importantly, keep your tournament life alive. So what are your initial thoughts once that series is finished?
Well, I'm very happy. This actually was the first series where I felt like I kind of played like my regular level, so yeah, I'm just happy that I played well, and of course staying alive is kind of important as well, but yeah, I'm happy.
When you say, playing to your normal level, with your losses earlier today, I know that you lost to 2 Zerg players. Did you feel like you weren't able to showcase your normal 3? You weren't able to showcase your style?
I played garbage. They're really, really bad. I didn't sleep too well. That's a good excuse as always. And I don't know. Like I just wasn't really playing well. And no, I still think I can do better, but I played well.
Let's talk about the first map against SKillous. You're in a situation where you're already in the knockout bracket, which means any loss that you take gets you much, much closer to a possible elimination. So during that first map, when things started to not go your way, what was going through your head?
I kind of was... I don't know. I was in the situation before when I lost the COS, so I already went through the roller coaster of emotions of, oh no, I'm out. So I actually kind of was able to keep my cool and think logically about my strategies. And usually what happens in this situation when you're very close to losing, you start playing very safe. And I tried my best not to do that and try to throw some risk in, be a little greedy, maybe be a little over-aggressive, and I think it worked well.
In map 2, when you saw that whole crowd of Adepts rushing in, were you nervous at all that potentially you might not be able to hold, or did you feel confident you'd be fine?
I was very confused because I scouted a Forge. I know he likes Adepts. We joked about it before that no matter what he does some clown stuff and then goes into an Adept all in. But I was like, he has a Forge, there's no way he's gonna do it. And I didn't scout his gases on his natural for a while, which usually is a good indicator if it's adept or not. And I was like, there's no way it's adept. And then I see like 10 adepts. I'm like, crap. I had no Templar archives yet. I was like, it's going to be a bit rough. But so yeah, I kind of did think crap.
Well, luckily you still were able to hold in map 3. It was a really great win from you. And now moving forward, you're going to be still in the knockout bracket. And for now, it's do or die. You really have to step it up. You know, how confident are you feeling that with this win here, you can start showing the game that you're meant to play?
I don't know. I feel like in my head I'm already out of the tournament because I thought I lost the cost. So I'm actually kind of relaxed at the moment, and I hope I can show good games.
Well, I know that you have a lot of fans cheering for you, Rotterdam included. Best of luck moving forward. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Kalaris. Back to you.
Very relieved Harstem there as he's able to keep himself alive here for WCS Summer. Unfortunately for SKillous, his road has come to an end now, down towards the knockout bracket, but yeah, maybe we shall see him in future tournaments going forward. There's always a lot of talent there, and Mr. SKillous, it's in the name, skill. Joining me, Mr. Muslim and Todd.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, thank you very much, I appreciate that. Gentlemen, watching Harstem being able to vanquish SKillous there, it wasn't by any means trivial though, going up against SKillous.
SKillous is a new up-and-comer, but he's actually pretty darn good to see how young he is. So it was a bit of a fiery match, and one being in the knockout bracket so early on, like that's a rough one. But Harstem, he kept his composure, he played good, and then he got a cheeky hug from Sue at the end there as well. Like, good day for Harstem.
That game too was so close, by the way. I feel like
Yeah.
Harstem must have been like maybe 1 or 2 units away from dying, from basically leaving the game. Like it was such a clutch hold, and even at some point SKillous, even though it looked like he was being held, he started killing probes, and that's very dangerous when you get adepts into those mirror lines. But Harstem stayed calm. He was able to barely get the hold, and then after that, I think he maybe gained some momentum, you know, going into game number 3. It's such a huge sigh of relief when you're almost like you come back from the verge of death in one of these games and you're able to get the equalizer, so very nicely done.
Yeah, I mean, to start things as a whole, just a lot of pressure being put on, it felt like, by SKillous going up against someone like Harstem. And, you know, when we see the name Harstem as a whole, he's truly a veteran now of the European scene, the international scene, in fact, also.
Like Harstem, you know, we all joke about it, the year of Harstem, and it's seemingly been going on for 8 years now, but there was a time where he actually won like that Chinese tournament and then went over to Home Story Cup and won that when it was truly competitive.
That was his year.
Yeah, we absolutely know that he's got it in him, and it's just nice to see him be so humble in this interview. Like, I feel this was like the first series of the day that I've actually played to my standard, and he obviously feels more comfortable now. But yeah, this was a super good hold. Like, lots of adept shooting the cannon instead of being
Fear Dragon talked about this. I think that's like the key point here. If all the adepts had been on top of the army, I think SKillous might just be able to win. But yeah, sometimes it just comes down to this. Just one single smaller mistake, and even now, like, it still looked dicey for Harstem. He started on losing probes a little bit left and right, but then Charge finally kicked in. I mean, Zealous not of the best units against the devs, but he had enough Archons behind this. He had some nice saves with the Prism and everything. That was a crazy hold. That was like one of those holds that when like you win the game, you're like, yes, like this is the one I wanted to win.
Like, yeah, he's smiling. Like, there was one move there, actually. Like, he actually warped in the High Templars right next to the Adepts. If they turned around and sniped those High Templars before they got to make an Archon, that could have been game over right there. So he got away a little bit lucky. In this game, both the commentators said it while it was going on. He didn't go for the all-in, like, win move, getting the Robo or the Pylon powering it. He actually went for the probes, like the more safe option. Like, it's going to get damage done, but it's not like the real clincher for the win, and that just shows that he's very, very confident as well.
I think one thing that was really cool about this breach from Harstem is that he really focused on opening a certain point to make sure that, you know, only having one sentry and one force field, that was only going to work if that one gateway was there. So he was very, very meticulous about how he was going to open the entry point there for that final win, right? That's really cool.
Yeah, certainly, and he's also one of those guys that I love to see him win. You know, like, he's very emotional. He's not one of these, like, deadpan, kind of like, oh, doesn't mean much to me. Like, it obviously means a lot to him. So he's one of the guys that I love to see him do well. I love to see him play well. I think he plays Protoss in a way that I would love to play it if I played it. Like, he's almost like a stats version, you know? Like, he's very defensive, very calm and calculated. Not all about all the all-ins or the flavor of the week.
Are you saying he doesn't do the innovation smelling of organic materials? Kind of like Link.
No,
he's not that kind of.
I just like him a lot, man. I like his whole character. I'm really happy for Harstem.
Absolutely. Great guy, great guy. So he does stay alive, of course. And that is now his opportunity to keep going in the knockout bracket. I'm trying to figure out who he's going to be playing next. Okay, so it would be a person from our next group stage, of course. As we take a look at the eye tracking here from Toby, from SKillous, as he was trying to launch this attack, and we can see where his kind of focus does lie during this.
Is this in half-time speed or something?
I think so. I think it's a bit slower.
So he's like, okay, I'm going to get the pylons, like depower the gateway, and maybe the shield batteries and stuff.
I was thinking about, I think, yeah, that would have been a mistake if he shaded on top of these stalkers, probably.
Yeah.
And then when Archons come into play, it's the big problem. So towards the tail end here, he realized it was too late anyway.
much.
A little bit hesitant, but I mean, he was already in big trouble here. This had mostly been held for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and that does it for that series as a whole, as we're going to be moving on to another one in a few moments' time. But actually, that means as well, whilst that knockout bracket was going on, our Group 2 is completely concluded. So now we know all of our Group Stage 3 matchups and kind of how those groups shake up. And those are some big, big groups. Actually, we have some of those matches going on already. Todd, I do believe that you have... What do you have? You have...
Future against Clem.
Future Clem. Okay.
A pretty big 10 versus 10. Finally, we see Future. You know, I've been talking about him coming to play here. And Clem, he already had some TVT success earlier in tournaments.
Yeah.
We talked about that before. So we might have thought, you know, like he might have the upper hand here. No. Future looked incredible in game number 1. He started getting ahead, got a lot more supply, went for a big push, and then got the win. Now we're in game number 2, and Future has been the one that's been pressuring a little bit more. They've traded units on the other side of the map, but nothing too major happened. But much like in the previous game, it just feels like Future is one step ahead of his French opponent. Like, quicker third base, he always has the info, like we see a big scan here.
Yeah.
And even like, you know, tank count and army-wise are already having 2 Raven. Like, he's just playing really well. Like, usually when you see new players, a lot of the time, coming into the scene and doing really well, it's going to be off the back of, you know, playing very aggressive, cheesier styles. But it feels like for Future, that's not the case at all. He's playing solid and really well.
Ready to feel old, Todd? The combined age of both these players in this game is about the same age as you. Like, they are so freaking young. These are the young Terrans from both the regions. I think one of them's 16, one of them's 17. They're obviously both doing really well here in Group Stage 3.
Thanks, the Muslim.
You know,
Just assault Todd a bit more, please.
I'm glad you're here.
Gotta bring it up, you know, gotta bring it up. I thought it was like super cool. And then over in my game as well, I'm actually watching Reyna versus Euthermal in
That's
Group
a big
Stage 3.
matchup.
Yeah, like that's one of the best Terrans in Europe against one of the best Zergs in Europe.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we got to the root of, you know, all of our age concerns. And
I'll get you
preferences.
back. I got nothing right now, but like, I'll get you back.
And of course, that match between Future and Clem is going on in Group E right now of Group Stage 3. The other 2 players in that group are Neeb and TLO. So, of course, both of these players very much so looking to try and get themselves a win. And people like Neeb in that group, as well as TLO, who went through the previous group stage very well himself. Scary opponents indeed. Here is the majority of our Group Stage 3, because we have 1 or 2 spots that are yet to be filled, although I think that might have been concluded. Anyway, regardless, anything that really stands out to you guys for Group Stage 3? Obviously, it's massively stacked.
Just going through it one group at a time, and they're all pretty damn difficult.
Yeah, it's crazy stacked.
Group D, the additions of Lambo and DNS with Time and Gerald. Like, Gerald's the weaker one of the group, but he's still 6.5. That's very solid. In fact, Group H, I feel sorry for Probe, man, because that is being grouped with Marine Lord, Euthermal, and Reyna. Like, that's rough. That's real rough.
Definitely so. Any thoughts, Todd? Or?
Yeah, why is Cyril in Group Stage 3? I thought he was waiting in the final. So
Actually, in my bracket, I already have him in the final. I'm just kind of...
Yeah, so he's going to get by Stork. They already had in the group. Hellraiser, that's been playing super well, gets into that group with Cyril. So
yeah,
I guess good luck to him.
I
guess 2 players make it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody I'm interested to see. Somebody I'm interested to see is, but always over in Group C as well. I'm really not. I'm familiar with everybody's games there. I think apart from his, I'm not as familiar with him at all.
I mean, 2 players make it out into the playoff, but we still have the knockout bracket. Actually, everybody that's in Group Stage 3 right now, they're guaranteed at least top 40, which means they're not in the money yet. Because if they lose. Like, whoever loses 2 matches and then finishes 4th in a group has to play 1 match in a knockout bracket, where if they lose, they win nothing. If they win, they get $1,250.
Yes.
And it's all about those dollars, guys.
It's all about
those
the
esports
dollars.
earnings.
That's absolutely correct. All right, and that is the groups as they do currently stand, which means now, not only do we have our games going on, I see that somebody just won. Who was that?
That was Reynor 1-0 up against Uthermal, and I mean, Uthermal's been having a tough time against Zerg recently.
Yeah.
Like, in the group stage here, I can't remember who he lost to, but it was someone I didn't expect him to. He also lost to Hellraiser later on, but that's a Protoss player. Oh, Sortov. He actually lost to Sortov in the groups, and I mean, Sortov's good, but Uthermal, we need you back, man. We need you back.
Is this a Uthermal? Please
Please
survive.
Uthermal survive.
I'll come out with them. They'll come out. They'll
Eventually, don't worry. As soon as you cast in some Terrans, we're ready for it. We're ready for it. Our next match here on the main stage, though, is actually going to be, I think, Mana going up against Ayasonu. And from what I see in some results recently, Ayasonu is playing mighty, mighty fine. So what do we make of this matchup coming into it?
Yeah, the Chinese, it feels like over the years, they've always changed, you know, who's at the top of the scene, who's doing really well. We used to have very different names with guys like Jim, Maxed, Shigwa, and then nowadays it's a lot more about guys like Ayasonu that are doing pretty well. And you never really know what to expect out of them, but we just know that if Ayasonu is on his A game, he can go really deep in his tournament and beat a lot of top players, guys like Mana. And the same goes for Mana, you know, he's had a little bit of inconsistency here and there. Over the years, I remember like his Protoss Zerg used to be terrible once upon a time, and then he worked really hard on it, won a tournament off the back of his PvZ, and then now I would say he's pretty good at it.
I have a question, Ben, and something to maybe ponder on here for a moment, but the recent level, I feel, of some of these Chinese players, people like Time, Ayasonu back once again in my mind, kind of harks a little bit to the almost true resurgence of what's going on in China right now. You've got the team leagues going on. Is that leveling up a lot of these guys' games, or what are your thoughts?
I don't want to credit it to just that, but I feel like in general, China's changed the way it practices. It used to be very internal and all about killing your opponent as quickly as possible and also as easy as possible. So a lot of them played Protoss and they went for the big all-ins, you know, like Jim Zero with the Colossus all-in from 2-base.
Yeah.
With these guys, they're becoming way more well-rounded.
Yeah.
Like Ayasonu, I think it was like 2017 WESG. I remember lots of players in the groups, they're like, he's the guy, like we're actually kind of scared of him. And he just showed that he's way better and way more well-rounded, and Time as well that's burst out recently. Like he made a top 4, I think, at some WCS recently, or at least a top 8.
He was top 8, lost to Serral last year.
And it was 3-1. And like the map that he won, he looked really damn solid. So not only is it the support that these guys are getting, but there's just more elements to their play now than they've ever had before.
The Future just won against Clem here, so the North American Terrans, they're here, the Muslim, they're ready to take over.
Get the American chants out, you know, USA.
Don't tell Fear Dragon is what I'm trying to say.
He's already singing up here.
No, no.
No, that's super impressive though by Future. I mean, this is his first I think it's his first WCS, at least on a European soil, so coming over and looking pretty damn strong.
Yeah, definitely so. Yeah, actually, you brought up a really cool notion for China, and I want to stick with this matchup for a moment here, Todd. Do you kind of see similar things? Because obviously, you actually spent a lot of time in China yourself, watching these Chinese players now flourish. The addition of some of these foreigners, the Koreans going over there as well to play in these team leagues, that's doing very, very well for them.
Yeah, I think they've had like a really good evolution. Like Ben said, you know, they used to play very aggressive for the most part. Like between Maxed, Jim, and Shigwa, these were like the all-out aggressive players.
Shameless.
Yeah, exactly.
Shameless.
But I think they've also started practicing on Korea as well. Like they had their own server before, and now they practice on Korea, and like there's good team houses now in China. Like I hear about when Scarlet and Special go over there and stuff, and they're like, oh my gosh, they treat us like kings and queens. This is amazing.
Dishonorable, by the way, that's the word.
Dishonorable.
That's the word that somebody used to describe Classic and his strategies one time, and that's the word that I would use to describe kind of how these other guys played. But yeah, nowadays guys like Ayasunu, even though he's still pretty aggressive player, which you need to be to some extent. Also Time, they're just so well rounded. Their practice on Korean server, even practicing in Korea at times with lower ping has helped them become so much better.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I did want to talk a bit more about Mana. However, we are almost ready here to go into the game. So thank you very much, guys. As for now, we're going to go to a short break. And when we return, the start of Group Stage 3 begins here for WCS Summer.